Principal Chief Lewis Downing served the Cherokee Nation during the critical period of Civil War Reconstruction. In this Cherokee Almanac, we explore his leadership and how the rifts between political factions within our tribe began to heal, and the Cherokee Nation became united. The U.S. Civil War left incredible devastation in its wake, not only in the United States, but also in Indian Territory.
Cherokee Nation was far more damaged than most of the states of the South, and it was because not only did they fight a civil war between the North and the South here, but there was all that internal division within the tribe. There were two distinct factions, the followers of John Ross and the followers of Stand Watie, and the division went well back before the Civil War, all the way back before removal.
After the death of Principal Chief John Ross in August of 1866, the Cherokee Nation desperately needed a leader to spearhead Reconstruction and unite the Northern and Southern Cherokees. Initially, next in line to fill Chief Ross's vacancy was his assistant chief, Lewis Downing.
So Lewis Downing was a young man during the forced removal and had been educated in the Baptist mission schools in the East. And then after removal, he was a Baptist missionary with the Cherokees, was also active in tribal government.
He had been a chaplain in the Confederacy, and then at the moment that Cherokees had the ability to side with the Union, he did so. And then he served John Ross as assistant chief in the period following the Civil War.
However, Downing served only a few months as principal chief before the Cherokee National Council voted to replace him by appointing William Potter Ross.
William Potter Ross was the nephew of Chief John Ross. He, at an early age, sort of came under the tutelage of John Ross, who sort of adopted him, sent him to college. He graduated first in his class at Princeton and came back to the Cherokee Nation, which was then in Indian Territory, and he had a whole series of jobs. First, he was on the delegations that went to Washington, I think secretary to the Senate. He was editor of the Cherokee Advocate. I can't even begin to tell you all the things that he did.
While Ross's qualifications were undeniable, he failed to be the unifying leader his uncle was.
And this is someone who probably thought through family connections that he was the heir apparent in many ways, and yet William Ross also is the elite of the elite, so to speak. Lewis Downing kind of represents more of a community-centered figure. He's able to communicate with and has experiences that are more akin to lots of Cherokee people.
In the next tribal election in 1867, Lewis Downing ran a successful campaign against Ross and returned to the office of Principal Chief. In his first address to the Tribal Council, Chief Downing said,
Lewis Downing worked to bring all the Cherokees back together, which meant bringing the Southern Cherokees back. Some had actually moved into Texas during the Civil War, and some into the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations. He welcomed them all back into the Cherokee Nation, and they could live wherever they wanted, back to their old homes if they wanted.
With the nation physically reunited, Chief Downing turned his attention toward Washington, D.C. and treaty negotiations with the U.S.
He negotiated a treaty that he believed would really help them resolve all kind of outstanding difficulties, particularly financial difficulties. It would give the Cherokees control in their nation. The president signed the treaty, submitted to the Senate, but they refused.
The denial of this treaty was a sign of the dismissive ways in which the U.S. dealt with tribal nations for decades to come. Despite the failed treaty, Chief Downing did not falter in his plans to rebuild the Cherokee Nation from the inside.
They began to grow more corn and wheat, cotton. They rebuilt their homes, improved them. grist mills, sawmills were reestablished. The country became prosperous.
Once the individuals were able to rebuild their homes and their farms, then they began to rebuild the government, the social structures such as the schools. Work began on our Cherokee Capitol building, and it was completed in 1869 and opened at that time. So this was one of the main buildings that was constructed to reunite the Cherokee people.
The achievements of Chief Downing's leadership were evident, and he was re-elected in 1871. Unfortunately, this second term would be cut short.
Chief Downing died in 1872, and like many 19th century sicknesses, we don't always have a clear cause of death. It might have been pneumonia, it might have been something else. So there isn't even a clear explanation of his end.
While Chief Downing was unable to see all of his projects to completion, he accomplished much in a very short time and left the state of our nation stronger than he received it.